Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Masks Off. I am Kim,
And I'm Tia.
and we decided in this episode that we wanted to take a little bit of a deeper dive. In the last episode, we were talking about feelings and how we numb our feelings and how we hide from our feelings and pretend that they don't exist. And we had a good conversation about doing inner work and becoming aware. And in this episode, we thought we wanted to go a little bit deeper and actually talk about, well, what now? Like, what do I do now? When you realize, like, great, I know I have this pain. I know I have this issue. I know I numb with food. I know I numb with alcohol. Well, now what?
Right.
So this is what we thought we would talk about a little bit more in this episode. So let me begin with our quote, which is, if problems arise today, I will try to acknowledge them and then put a little space between my problems and myself in all our affairs.
I love that. Who's that from?
In all our affairs. So it is taken from the book. Here it is. It is from the book Courage to Change, which is One Day at a Time for Al-Anon. So in all our affairs, they put a lot of they write a lot of quotes in the daily readings.
Okay, so it's not a specific person. It's
a
collective of a lot of people.
It's a collective, exactly.
Okay. Just when you shared that quote before we started recording, I'm like, oh, I like that because it's the space, it's the pause, it's the ability to look outside ourselves as an observer. And we briefly touched on that.
Let's talk about that more in detail. Can you want to say more about that?
Sure. Yeah, because, the reason we wanted to really talk more about it is because we didn't want to, I look back at where I was when I was disconnected from my body, disconnected from my feelings, just ignored them. And I didn't know how to get out of it. And so we wanted to give some practical tips, tools, however you want to call that, to help start to connect to those feelings. So we're not ignoring them, that we are feeling them. So when we talk about being an observer of our feelings, having that space, as the quote says, having that pause, it's, when we've talked about before about awareness, right? So the awareness that you're shoving your feelings is the first step right there.
Step one.
Step one is awareness. And to keep it simple, now, once you have the awareness, now become curious and be an observer. So what are you feeling? What is the feeling that's coming up in me? And so you may not be able to identify the feeling. Many of us don't have the words for the feeling other than basic feelings. I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling frustrated, angry, happy. There are so many feelings when you really start to learn about feelings and emotions. And maybe we can share a link in the show notes to a graphic, because there's lots of them out there that are already put together. So I'm going to write a note that we're going to share.
I think Brene Brown has a good one on feelings versus emotions, maybe.
And then I have another one that I share with clients a lot. Sorry, writing down, everyone. Okay, just didn't want to forget that we don't share that with you. So if we aren't able to fully identify what we're feeling, which is very common, so no judgment if you can't really identify what the feeling is showing up for you, but what you can do is start to notice, where is it showing up in my body? Because that's giving you a clue to observe. Like, ooh, you mentioned, you felt it in your throat or your stomach, depending on what side of the pendulum you were in the last episode. So if you notice your throat starts to feel tight, start going, that's usually a sign I'm feeling something that I don't want to feel. Because you wouldn't have quite such a strong sensation in your body if you were actually leaning into the feeling, because then it would dissipate and it wouldn't go into your cells, right? Like you talked about how you do that with regression and the RTT process when they're in hypnosis. It's getting in, because feelings turn to emotions, which literally bind to our body. And if we can notice the tightness in our throat and go, oh, here's a feeling coming up, I need to lean in and feel it. And if we actually, and it's not easy to do, but if we actually sit with the feeling and observe it for 90 seconds, it moves out of our body. So that first step is just being an observation, whether you can identify the feeling, notice you're feeling frustrated or angry or overwhelmed or or sad or whatever is coming up. If you can notice the feeling right away, awesome. If you can't notice and identify the feeling, start to just really tap into your body. And in Balancing Your Backpack, we encourage people to do a body scan. So if you do a body scan to start your day and end your day, or do it during the day, you're going to start noticing how my body feels when it's relaxed. I notice how my body feels, and I've got this inkling that something's going on, but I don't know what it is. So where am I feeling it in my body? So it starts giving you clues and awareness to your feelings. And then when we're not attached to it, like you talked, like that space, and when you don't get the charge, then we're able to observe without judgment and with understanding, and like, it's just a feeling. Look at that. I can feel it. And guess what? I sat with it. That's what I encourage my clients. Sit with it for 90 seconds. Set a timer on your thing. And you're likely not going to be able to fully sit with it the first many times you do this. But it's the practice of sitting and observing and creating that space. And then you realize after that 90 seconds, you're still okay.
Yeah, I
survive that big feeling.
Oh my gosh, I have so many things to say. I probably will forget them all. That's how my brain forgets.
Share what's coming up.
Yeah, so just even when you were just speaking right then, I went into my body, right? Even as we're like, I felt, and I said this before, I shared before, that I can hold my breath, like when I'm just, right? When I'm
That's
really
such a good thing to notice.
That I'm holding my breath. Yeah,
it's exactly. So good. I couldn't
when
help
I'm
just like,
no, it's fine. But like when I'm really even using a ton of mental energy, or just like very engaged, and like there's no big emotion or feeling going on. I'm just like, you know, like even as we're talking, I'm noticing that my body is tensing. And so when you were just speaking, I mindfully went into my body and just mindfully said to myself, just breathe. And I just let my shoulders relax. That is something that is new for me, is just now that new connecting to my body and paying attention and being aware, and just that little like, okay, just breathe and just relax. Right. There's a lot of mental energy going on. And then the other thing about the mental energy and what you were saying about the thoughts is what has helped me. And this is another tool that can be used, is that I think it is Tara Brach and many other teachers as well that use the ocean and the waves.
Right.
Like our thoughts are the waves on the ocean, but who we are is the ocean.
Right. We're the drop in the ocean, and the ocean in the drop.
Exactly. So, and if we can really take that in and recognize and be aware that when those thoughts come up, and they will always come up, to just, and that's riding the wave. That's that 90 seconds you just talked about. Just ride the wave for 90 seconds. I mean, think about being in the ocean, either, you know, when you're a kid or an adult, right? You're waiting for that big wave to come and crest over your head, right?
Yeah.
Think, oh my God. And sometimes
the
anticipation. And sometimes I would turn and look behind me and see this big wave, this big ass wave. And think, oh my God, I'm going to die, right? Listen to the analogy though, right?
Yeah.
The bigger the wave, the more I would get scared, or could get scared or excited, one or the other, depending on how you look at it. But I would get really scared with the big ones and think that it's going to tumble over me. And you know how sometimes when a wave crashes, you do a somersault and makes you flip? Right? I hated that feeling. That was so scary of getting tossed around.
Out of control.
No control. Like I was so fully aware of how freaking powerful the ocean is. And that was scary to see that this wave could toss me around and I could not get my feet on the ground until the wave fully passed.
Right.
But that's the same thing with our thoughts. It's like, this is just coming to me right now. It's the same thing. We can have a big thought or a big emotion or feeling and think that this feeling is going to suck me under and I'm going to drown. I'm never going to come up from this wave.
It's too much.
It's too much. It's a big wave, and it is going to just literally drown me.
Right.
But the truth is, the wave just passes.
That's right.
As does the thought,
Mm-hmm.
as does the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can remember being in so many intense situations in my life. And the feelings were so big and so overwhelming. And I can remember thinking, I'm never going to come up from this. I'm never going to like survive this.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like I'm being sucked into an abyss.
Yeah.
But the reality is, it's scary. It is scary. It is
very
completely.
Scary. Mm-hmm.
And especially as children, these big feelings and emotions were very scary.
Right.
And most of us were not taught how to process or deal with those big emotions.
No.
So it felt like our survival was truly at stake. But now, fast forward as adults, they can still feel that way. But each and every time, it passed. Mm-hmm. And just like sometimes the ocean can be really rough with really big waves and stormy. And what happens after? Then the ocean just calms down. And there's days where they're just little ripples on the ocean.
Right. Right. And then the more we practice this of sitting with those big waves, those big feelings, the more those big waves and feelings don't feel quite so big anymore, because we've practiced and we know it's not going to drown us. We know, and it's the neural pathways, right? So we've now created those grooves in our brain that you can sit with this. You're okay. You will be okay. And what an empowering feeling you have then. So now, like when I feel overwhelmed, it's like, another tool to add for that pause is I go on the breath. It's meditation. It's like, okay, am I in the present moment? I'm having a big feeling. Yeah, I'm having a big feeling. I'm feeling X, Y, Z, whatever it is. Okay, what's the now? What's the now? What's the now? Instead of letting my mind race ahead to the what ifs, and this is going to happen, and then that's going to happen, and then, oh my goodness, it's going to be the tsunami. If I go on my breath, and all I'm saying is you just notice your breath. It's not like I go sit on a meditation mat. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm still in the moment. I may be having an interaction with someone that's bringing up big feelings for me, or in a situation that's could potentially bring up a lot of panic. And I just go on the breath. You're now. This is the now. This is the now. Keep breathing. Just bring that awareness back to my breath and still feeling. So when you're doing that, you're feeling, because you can't escape the feeling if you're on the breath, but you're not into a story. And there's a difference of a feeling to a story. So what I said before, instead of going down the what if train of what ifs and catastrophes, I'm in the present moment. So I'm feeling, but I'm not creating a story and emotion and embedding it into my body. If that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And that story that we tell ourselves, and we did an episode on this, the stories we tell ourselves, the stories are coming, and this is the Joe Dispenza work. So there's even another tool for people to just listen to some of his YouTubes. You can learn the stories that we tell ourselves come from the memories, come from the past, right? So a lot of times, like you just talked about, if you're truly in the moment, in the present moment, you're in this moment. But what makes just this moment, but what makes sometimes where we can feel so hijacked is that we are bringing the past and the stories into the present moment
to create a future that hasn't happened.
To create a future that hasn't even happened. Right? So that, maybe we could say a little bit more about that, because that was hard for me to understand and grasp at first. I get it now. The whole thing that we take a memory from the past, and then sort of like when we're feeling triggered in the moment, we're often feeling triggered because of a memory from the past
that has the same feeling that you're feeling in the moment.
That has the same feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
But it's really originating from something that's happened already. It's no longer here. It's gone. It's in the past.
Exactly.
But you're feeling it in the moment. And then that same feeling is now creating this story that now is going to predict or project onto the future moment.
Exactly. Which hasn't happened.
which hasn't happened.
And we don't know what's going to happen, but we can co-create that future happening.
Yeah.
If we really attach to it, because then we make choices that the co-creation part and the 100% responsibility.
Yeah.
So if you really want to take 100% responsibility for yourself, feel your feelings in the moment. And if you can't, like we've shared before, if you can't do it in the moment because you're just overwhelmed and out of balance, come back to that feeling. It's not 100%, it's not going to be the same truly, because it's not an in the moment feeling, but you can still revisit a feeling you had that you attached a story to because you couldn't handle it in the moment. But you can come back and rewrite that story, rewrite that pattern, change it.
Yeah. And I think that's really great that you bring that in, because we want to always say progress, not perfection. Exactly. And I still get hijacked all the time.
It's the human experience.
Yeah, it's the human experience. And I think we probably always will. It's just what you just said, though, is really important and key. Is, okay, so you got hijacked in the moment. You still reacted. You still went limbic. You went to your emotional brain. You did all the things that your old patterns. So now just recognize and go back and revisit.
Exactly.
And then feel the feeling.
Right. It's not perfection.
Do a redo.
The power of the redo in healing and inner growth is enormous, because like you said, it's because of something in the past, likely, that is re-triggered. And so it's creating this. So can we change the past? Absolutely not. We can't change the past, but we can change our interpretation, our attachment of bringing the past into the present. So it's that healing work of integration, wholeness, authenticity. So it's not banishing and shaming how we reacted and created a story and an attachment and pain and everything that we're recreating over and over and over. We can change it.
Yeah.
So we can heal it. It can poke us, but we don't have to attach to the poking of the pain. Like, oh, thanks for the poke. Thanks for the reminder that I have that little inner child pain right there. That's nice. Thank you. No, I don't need 100%. I don't need to redo it again.
And I have that come up. Yeah, it comes up over and over and over again when I work with clients, that what their current day issue is, the presenting issue, is because of what they felt as a child, and it's still showing up. So if there was a scene or a memory when they felt not enough and not okay, it is contributing to the behavior today of where they still are feeling not enough or not okay. For me, I've been really exploring a lot with this perfectionist role and this doing. And so my current goal and desire right now is to be more in touch with my inner knowing, to learn how to be more lighthearted, to live in the moment, to be a human being and not a human doing. Yeah. What gets in the way when I'm not able to be in alignment with that desire and that want is me having this feeling of I have to be perfect. Right. I have to do. And it comes right back to, I know the scenes when I think I may have even shared in another episode. I know the times in my life when I was a kid where I felt that I had to perform, perfect, and please in order to be seen and validated. And until I did, I felt invisible. I felt I wasn't worthy or important of other people's love and affection. But once I started performing, perfecting, and pleasing, then I got that validation. And so now it's like a positive feedback. Right. And so, fast forward to today, and then I even think about all the stuff that I have to do, whether it's for...
I told you he was going to bark when we were recording.
Right. Yeah, that's
You
fine.
Keep talking. I'm just going to...
Let him in. That's fine. So whether or not it is about perfecting, performing, and pleasing, you're back already. See that? We'll wait for you to get back in. Yeah.
I'm back.
So, just Ozzy wanting to come in.
Yep, he is full force here right now. If you're watching on YouTube, if you look, you can see his tail wagging in the back.
Yes, he's very excited.
Sorry about
So,
that. It's
no,
life.
it's okay. That's life. That is life. And that's, and that's why we always say it all the time. We're trying to show up authentic and real. We're not professional. Listen.
And we're not perfect. I mean,
and we're
5 years ago, if we were doing this, not even 5, I mean, because it's taken me a while to be like, I can get on video and record myself.
Yes.
That was a long journey I won't go into right now because there's way too much perfectionism. But if he had done that back then, I would have been flustered. I would have been in my head. How embarrassing. I would have gone on this silly story of, I can't even control my dog.
Yeah.
When he's just a dog saying, hey, I love you. I want to come in the office with you. I didn't want to be in there earlier, but now I want to be in there now. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not me having to go into a shame story of it's not perfect now. Now we're not going to publish it because I messed it up because my dog got in the way. No,
can we just say let me ask you, do you feel like now that you can, do you feel free? Is there a freedom that comes with that?
Totally, because I'm no longer in this. I mean, we've had the blender going. We've had all sorts of things. It's like, this is the human experience. It's not perfect. So do I choose to go into resistance and create suffering, which is stifling and not freedom? Or do I choose to be like, hey, I've got a dog. I've got 2 cats. You probably hear the parrot squawking every now and then in the background. This is me.
Yeah.
And I can release and flow and be okay. And if it bothers someone listening, then we're not a match. We're not an energetic match. And that is okay too. So I'm not attached to, I trust the journey. I trust that whoever our listeners are a good, energetic, attractive match for you, for me, and for them, because they're listening to us.
Yeah.
And I still fall into perfectionism. Don't get me wrong. I still fall into that trap. It's very deeply seated and it shows up in very sneaky ways. But doing this with you has given me so much more practice to let go of that. I mean, and now he just walked out. He's like, I had to come in. Now I'm walking out. And now I've got a cat making noise with the curtain.
It is what it is, right? It is what it is. And not only is there there's freedom, but freedom because you're being authentic. Like when you just said it, it just gave me chills a moment ago when you said, and this is me.
It is.
Like that's what Masks Off is about, right? That's when we started this journey a few months ago. Our desire, our intention, our hope was to help others, including ourselves, to take off the masks.
Right.
Probably more us initially.
Oh yeah.
Right. To take off the masks and just to show up and be inherently who we are.
Right.
And to know that who we are inherently is more than enough. It is okay. Like I say this all the time. We came into this world as babies knowing that we are 100% lovable and worthy. And you are too, Ozzy.
He's like, but you shut the door enough. Now I can't feel safe to walk back in because I could get out, but now I can't get in. And I think it's everything you just said. And then noticing, he made it in. Noticing that, okay, that happened. Like he just did it again. And I had that moment of, he's going to disrupt us. Notice it. So instead of resisting that feeling and that thought that came into my mind, I'm like, yes, I am having a feeling he's interrupting again. Okay. Cause now it was before he did it. And now I did it again. So I could be that, there was a catch. I had a catch.
You had to catch it, but if you let the thought train go, where was the thought going? Finish that.
Okay, so where it would have gone, because I created I created the space, and the space doesn't have to be Grand Canyon space. My space, this moment was like
a little catch.
A little drop, a little little dribble of water on the counter dripping down.
Yep.
And it was. So I told you what I did do. What I didn't do and what I used to do would be like, oh my goodness, why is this happening to me again? Why didn't I just stick him outside? Why didn't I do this? I should have. Now this is going to happen. We're going to toss out this thing because of me, because I made a dumb choice. How could I have been so dumb? Why didn't I not plan ahead? I knew he was a little more antsy this morning than usual. I mean, I would have gone down this spiral, which would have resulted in I'm not good enough. And it wasn't just ruining it for me. It was ruining it for you and ruining it for our listeners. So that's where it could have gone.
Wow. Look at that thought train.
Yeah. Because it's a very familiar one for me. Because I should know exactly what's going to happen. So I'm going to prevent it from happening. So it couldn't happen.
So that old storyline creates that neural pathway. And we talked about those gorgeous,
so easy to go,
right? Just like it's there. So to create the new one, which is what you just did, you caught it. Yep. You saw it going there. You caught it. You said, okay, I'm going to divert. Felt it.
I felt it.
You're like, let me go in this direction now and create a new neural pathway.
So it's the conscious choice. So when we lean into our feelings, when we come out of our rabbit hole, right? We notice, feel, don't attach, don't create the suffering, and flow and be okay. Because we are okay.
We are okay.
And if you stop listening, that's okay because you're just not ready for that yet.
Yeah.
And those of you who stuck with us are ready to continue the work.
Yeah. And like you said, this is just in the moment, human experience. So we're just using the opportunity as a teaching lesson, and it's perfect.
Yeah. And zero judgment to the people who decided to stop listening.
Yeah.
So I want to be clear. There was no judgment there. It was just, we're ready when we're ready.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Exactly.
No attachment.
And,
oh my
just,
goodness.
I know,
Ozzy, for creating.
Yeah, for creating that whole story, that whole situation, that teachable moment, because when we started with this particular episode, we were, as I said in the beginning, we really wanted to offer some practical tools because that's what we're doing a lot now is trying to, with our backpacks, we're trying to fill the backpack with some tools. And we wanted to just give some concrete tools to think about.
And to notice also in the backpack what to take out. So I can take out that thought train that I had. And the reason it was so easy for me to recreate it is because that was so deeply embedded in my thought process. So it's still, and so I think that's also a remembering it's still there. I just choose not to take that path anymore. But it's not gone. It's still in me.
Because you started to go there. You just caught it and said, okay, I'm not going to go all the way down the rabbit hole.
So we're not looking at getting rid and erasing our journey of where we are today. That's not what we're looking for.
And there's so much wrapped into that rabbit hole that you could have gone into. Like you said, it was the not good enough, the people pleasing, what will people think, and
disappointing you,
the disappointing others. I mean, there's so many masks wrapped up into where you could have gone with that, and where we both have gone many times in the past and still can. We're not saying that we can't or won't.
Right.
Exactly. So hopefully this was valuable and it was a little bit more involved and in depth than the last episode. I mean, the last one was good too, but we just wanted to go deeper dive in this one.
Exactly. So thank you always for listening. I really appreciate it and looking forward to the next one.
Absolutely. And if there's any questions, any questions or comments about what we just talked about, or you would like more support, Tia is a conscious coach. She does coaching. I do rapid transformational therapy where I do hypnosis. We work with all this stuff. So if you want more support, need more support, our email addresses are in the show notes. You can reach us in so many ways. Even through the podcast, you can send us an email through that as well, or individually.
Exactly.
So we're here to support. We're here to help. Takes a village.
Sure does.
It takes a village. So thanks so much, everyone.
Bye.